Okay, now that we have some more people here, should be some more stragglers coming in. But thank you all so much for coming. I just want to do a reminder to join our Slack, follow us on Instagram, loads of updates, any questions about NGN. We'll be recording this, so if you want to rewatch it, we will be putting it up on our YouTube and Instagram. And yeah, follow for updates. We'll have plenty more opportunities like this. And without further ado, Ziad, thank you so much for coming. I just want to welcome you up here.
No, thank you so much for having me. Thrilled to be here. How are you doing?
I'm
How are
I'm
y'all
good. I'm
doing?
good. I'm very excited.
Good. Well, thank you for having me. I don't know that I'm worth getting excited over, but I'm excited to be here to talking to you guys a little bit. Um, I don't have slides. I just try to talk, make things as much of a conversation as possible. So what I want to emphasize to you all is if you have questions for me, feel free to just type them in the chat as I go. Because I'm happy to answer things as I go and to learn about you guys. I have a lot more to learn than I have to teach. So feel free to chime in with anything. And I'm excited to learn more about you, more than I am to tell you anything about me. But I will sort of go over the things that I was asked to discuss quickly, if that sounds good to y'all. Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
no, sounds fantastic.
Okay, so I'm just to tell you a little bit more of myself and my story, and maybe give some advice if I'm qualified to do so in some areas, and then we can take it from there, and then I can answer some questions. So basically, I'm Ziad. I'm 21 years old, so I'm getting old. And I feel that way, but I'm 21. I'm from Princeton, New Jersey, in the United States. I'm American Muslim. I'm from Bangladeshi American, and I guess my story sort of starts in the eighth grade. In eighth grade, I looked around the world a lot in middle school and growing up, and I'm sure many of you guys are familiar and are currently experiencing, what it's like to be a young person and a person of color, and asking yourself questions around identity and seeing so many of your peers, really struggle with being accepted in your school hallways and all. I mean, I guess not maybe school hallways right now, because I don't know if schools are virtual or in person or whatnot, but the sensation of trying to fit in and figure yourself out and etc. And I noticed, how often in my, surroundings, etc., so many people were being othered because of who they were, right? Because of how they loved or what they looked like or their skin color or their religion, etc. And as an American Muslim, I was certainly familiar with this idea of feeling othered. And so that didn't sit right with me. And I switched schools from an all boys school to a Catholic school in seventh grade. So I grew up in a household of all girls, my mom and my sisters, for the most part. And I went to an all boys school. And so I didn't have this rigid idea of gender norms growing up, because at home, like, if my sisters were playing Barbie, so was I, and at school, all things were boys things, because I went to an all boys school. There wasn't like this division between girls things and boys things. And suddenly in seventh grade, I became really aware of the rigid gender norms that defined my middle school at that time in so many ways. And it didn't sit right with me. And seeing, so many people being other didn't sit right with me. And so sort of towards the end of eighth grade, I got together with some friends to start Redefy, with this idea being that we need to tell our stories and we need to get to know each other better, because it is so hard to hate somebody, we need to build empathy and understanding, because so much of the unfairness, the misunderstanding that I think happens in middle schools, high schools, isn't because people are like really mean, because people don't know better. People don't know what people are going through. And so I wanted to get a platform where we can try to fix that, change that. I think schools overall do a really not good job of tackling current events, of tackling identity, and creating space for us to talk about these things that affect us deeply, but that are so often ignored in the classroom. And so I wanted to create a space where we could talk about these things, talk about ourselves and our stories and our struggles. And so I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but wanted to get started and felt really privileged, for so many reasons, and wanted to spend that privilege to try to do some good in my community and for those around me. And so got started, and it's hard to even reflect on the journey, because it's been such a whirlwind, and so many things that I could have never have expected, good and bad, but a lot of good have happened. And I feel really, really grateful for what I've been able to learn along the way. And like I said, I didn't know what I was doing when I started, but I've learned so much about myself, about the world, about others through the process. Um, Essentially, started growing Redefy and growing really authentically, because things like identity and stereotypes and current events do affect all of us, right? And young people especially. And so we started growing really organically. And then through there, we started getting, press coverage and meetings with industry leaders and politicians and et cetera, and really starting to be able to influence conversations at a big scale. And we started to hold conferences and started to establish chapters all around the world, and, eventually filed to be a formal nonprofit, and all of these things that I didn't, weren't even in my vision of what was possible, but started happening. And I started, working for politicians and, being a part of different, movements and campaigns that were really, really exciting and pushing the issues that I really cared about forward. And it was through those spaces and that time throughout high school, while I was, yes, also like being in high school. And, I think you guys are, in high school. Can you guys tell me if that's true? Can you guys in the chat tell me, like, where do you guys live / how old are you? That would help me shape this a little bit better. So if you could write in the chat, yeah, you're in high school. That's what I thought. Yeah. So I mean, like, in high school, and where do you guys live? Warsaw? Are you all around the world? I'm so confused. Oh wow, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Yeah, this is pretty international right here.
Wow, pop off. Bangladesh represent. We love to hear it. Ghana. Wow, people really from all over the place. My mom grew up in Potomac, not too far from Silver Spring. Wait, that's crazy. Such an international group. We love that. And we love that you're all in high school. But yes, I was very much so in high school, doing the things that y'all are doing, like trying to keep up with school, model UN, whatever it might be, student government, all that fun stuff, trying to figure out how to do math and science and physics, and it was not easy, and all that good stuff. And then also, building a nonprofit and starting to, be in a lot of these spaces that I never could have imagined or dreamt of. And, through that, realized how often young people are being spoken about but not spoken to, because I find myself in these rooms where I was the youngest person by 2 decades, and people were asking the most ridiculous questions about Gen Z because they didn't know anything about us, and they were literally 50-year-old youth experts consulting on Gen Z, and I was like, what the heck? Like, we exist and we can advocate for ourselves, right? And so it was in that space and time where I decided I needed to start youth consulting, because there was a clear gap of just understanding about Gen Z. And I believe the world looks better when a bunch of diverse young people sit at the table. I believe that the expert on any reality is the person closest to that reality. And I believe in the work that young people can do to change the world. And so started youth consulting my junior year, and that was 4.5 years ago. And again, it's been quite the whirlwind experience. And I could have never imagined, that now that we have like 10 full-time employees and, worked over 20 Fortune 500 companies, and I've gotten to do some really impactful campaigns at scale that give resources to those who need them and tell stories that matter. And so I feel really honored and privileged to do the work that I do and to run a purpose-driven company where we are empowering diverse young people with the opportunity to speak our truth to power and to shift the way that business government is going, because it's not going well, right? So many people are suffering and hurting, and we need to do things differently and to tell stories that matter and to uplift one another. And so through Redefy, through Juke Consulting, through my social media, through whatever I get the chance to do, being part of different campaigns and movements and whatever it might be, I want to hopefully do more of that work. My work comes from a place of believing that if we're having a conversation about a group of people, that group of people should be present and centered in the conversation always. And so I try to push that forward wherever I can. I believe in the power of diverse young voices and what we can do to come up with solutions to the most perverse problems of our time. And I feel really grateful to work and connect with thousands of young people all across the world like yourselves to think about how we can get to a world that's better for all of us. Because I think there's a lot that's wrong with our current world. And I feel really committed to continuing to try to be the best version of me, because I know I have a lot to learn. And I feel really lucky and privileged to be in the seat that I am in, but I know that I have a lot more to do and a lot more to learn, and my journey is only just starting in the grand scheme of things. And so yeah, I mean, that's like long story short, who I am. I know that I was asked to maybe talk more about my campaign work, that I've done on political campaigns, or writing for publications, or how balancing, etc. But I also just want to make this as interactive as possible, so I can talk about those things. But if you have questions, I'll start answering the ones in the chat. Anonymous one asks, how did Redefy function from the beginning? How did it make it popular? Some advice on startups, please. Well, first of all, like, I don't know that I mean, are we popular? Like, I don't know. I mean, I think popular is like a pretty weird, I don't know, like, I don't know how to define that term, but look, when I started Redefy in 2013, and you guys were probably like 8 years old, because I'm so old, in 2013. was a very different world than we're living in today, right? There wasn't, you know, people sharing to their Instagram stories social justice graphics every single day. Hell, there wasn't even Instagram stories. Like, imagine that. You know, when I started Redefine, there weren't even Snapchat stories. There wasn't, like, no one even used Snapchat. Like, this was like so long ago, right? That it's hard to even, when we launched, the three platforms that we launched on primarily that we got traction were Skype, Ask FM, and Instagram, right? It was a very different internet climate where this wasn't the norm. You know, creating social media to talk about politics on social media, to be this young and to have such, you know, loud political opinions, etc. It was very much so before a lot of this was really mass normalized. And so I think that the reason it did take off is because we were one of the first movers in that space of trying to create this community and trying to use our voices as young people on social media to speak up about issues that we cared about and to like really push that forward through chapters and through content and through journalism and through storytelling and through events and all of these different things that I think young people are really excited about that there wasn't a lot of at that time. And so I think that really helped us. I mean, how we functioned was like one step at a time, right? Like it was like me and four friends around a kitchen table, you know, troubleshooting on WordPress and figuring out how to set up a website and social media handles. And it was lots of evolutions of how we structured our team and what type of works that we were doing and how we shifted our mission and, you know, and like what were our priorities. And like these things are not linear, right? Like some years we did more than other years and a lot of changes. But I mean, the basic fundamental steps were like picking my team, was setting up a website, was setting up social media handles, was, you know, establishing our mission statement, was going to advisors and mentors and asking them questions about how we could be better, was taking critique and, you know, being challenged by people around me and becoming better because of it. And then starting to just do what our mission set us out to do. And our mission was to create resources and information to make communities and schools more equitable and inclusive. Actually, at that time, our mission was to defy stereotypes, to redefine perspectives positively, to embrace acceptance and tolerance, and to create an active community. And so what that looked like for us was using our platform to tell stories, to speak up about issues that matter, to start holding events and do campaigns that celebrate this idea that every person matters and that we need to tell each other stories and celebrate love and acceptance and equality. And so we started doing that and learned a lot on the way, but it definitely wasn't linear. I'm still learning a lot and I definitely make mistakes and have made mistakes and have a lot more to learn. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any more specific questions on the startup journey, but yeah, for Redefy, that's really how it happened. And yeah, I mean, we're still that, you know, we still have a lot more to do and big dreams and big things ahead. What is something you wish you knew before you started your journey with consulting? How did you get people to believe your cause? Well, I think that, like, look, I'm going to answer the question in a roundabout way. People ask me a lot, you know, like advice on public speaking or things like that. And what I always say is, like, don't. Like, I don't think that we should focus so much on like, oh, we need to talk like formal adults, you know, with the right bravado and all these things. Like, yeah, certainly there are skills and techniques that we can talk about in terms of public speaking. But what I'm really concerned about, and what I tell young people, you know, is, and my peers and younger, et cetera, is I think people believe you when you believe you, right? I think that conviction is infectious. And so, like, I think we're all our most confident selves when we're trying to convince our parents to let us go to that party, right? Or we're trying to convince our parents of something. And I think that we are our best advocates, we are our best speakers, we are our best leaders when we really believe what we're saying and we really believe in ourselves. And so I think the first step is like, do you believe you, right? Because like, I think that like, I hope that when I speak, that when I talk to people, people feel that like I believe me, right? That I'm speaking from a place of like real conviction. And so I think people believed in me when I started Redefine, or started believing when I started Juve, because I believed in me and I believed in Redefine. I believed in Juve. I believed what I was saying. And so I think that helped people believe in me because it was coming from a real place of conviction and truth and pain points. Like I started Redefine because I was tired of seeing my schools and my communities not take stereotypes and current events seriously and create infrastructure for us to talk about it. And so I was like, I'm gonna do it myself with my friends because this matters. And with Juve, I was tired of seeing people talk for Gen Z instead of talking to us. So it's like, I'm gonna do it myself with my friends. And so it came from a real place of pain point that was personal to me. And so I think people believed in me because like there was it was a labor of love, right? But what's one thing I wish I knew before I started? I think the one thing that I would like really do differently if I could do it all over again was is to listen more. Insofar as so my senior project, my senior year of college, my senior year of high school rather. Um, I did my at my high school like the last month of school you get to do like a senior project. And for me, what I did is I tried to have a conversation with every single person in my high school community. I didn't get to everyone, but I had 237 conversations, and that meant that was like with students, with teachers, with people who worked in the cafeteria, to the maintenance staff, to as many people as I could talk to. And I learned so much from those conversations about, and I asked questions like, what are you scared of? What are you hopeful for? What's one thing you would change about our school community? And I think I would have been a much better leader of Redefy, a much better human, a much better advocate, um, if I had had those conversations the first day of high school, not the last day of high school, right? If I really understood the problems of my community, not just speculated about what they were from my, own circles and my own bubble, because there were people that I talked to that I had never talked to before, right? Hundreds of people. And well, some things sure were unsurprising. Some things I had never thought of. I didn't even know were problems because it wasn't on my radar, right? And so I think that um, listening, right, and understanding the shortcomings and limitations of my own perspective has been really huge in my journey. And so understanding that I have a lot more to learn, and there's a lot of realities and stories that are dissimilar from my own that I need to learn from, and the onus must be on me as a person of privilege to go out and seek that information. Um, because I have, spots that I don't see that I need to better acknowledge, so that I can then support and serve as an ally for policies that hopefully uplift more folks. So before, I guess if I could do it all over again, I would just say like talk to more people sooner, learn from more people sooner, because it really empowers you to do the best work that you can do, I think. Yeah. Um, yeah, you were able to make your startup to get to a point of Syed. You were able to make your startup, and if I mispronounce your name, I'm so sorry. I've been trying to say your name to not be rude. So please let me know if I mispronounce it, and I will do better. Um, you were able to make your startup to get to a point of success. How did you market to that point? How did you spread the word? I find it hard to do marketing, which is why I'm asking. Well, first of all, right, like I had started a nonprofit in years before, so I'd met a lot of people through that journey and learned a lot about how to market through marketing Redefy, through using social media to get our word out there, through holding events, through meeting people on Twitter, meeting mentors and all of those things. And so I had learned a lot from that journey. And then I got together with two really smart friends of mine to start Chew in 2016, which also feels like a lifetime ago. And, how we got started was just hitting up every person we'd met through our different journeys. And a lot of people in the nonprofit world that I met, and a lot of our clients were like, a friend of a friend knew someone from church, or, I'd met some nonprofit leader at a conference or whatever it was. And we started some really small contracts, and we were students, right? So we just did whatever work we got on the side while going to school, etc., and just started growing really organically. And then, the big break for us was Bloomberg Business Week. A client of ours was a small publication, and he has a lot of journalist friends, and he was just talking about working with us. And then he was talking to a journalist friend of his who pitched a piece about us at Bloomberg Business Week. And then we got an email being like, Bloomberg Business Week wants to do a profile on you. And it was in print in the new money issue. And it was crazy. And it was only like a few months after we launched. And after that, a lot of people started to know about us and hear about us. And because, I was active on social media and Redefy was active on social media, and, my co-founders were also really, really smart and active and etc. We started getting a lot of really cool young people involved. A lot of people just started to hear about us and know about us. And so I think building teams that you really believe in that also push you forward, I think was really critical. Just getting started with what was right in front of you, and then just staying really true to who we were. I think it resonated because the story was authentic and true, right? Like we were real young people who were tired of being spoken about but not spoken to, and we were doing good work and from a place of purpose and from a place of ethos. And so we just told that story, and I think it resonated with folks. And then since then, we've just really just grown really organically. The vast majority of our business comes in inbound, insofar as like people just reach out because word of mouth, our clients tell other people about us or press or social media, or etc. And we just try to like stay true to who we are and to represent that, and to invest meaningfully in relationships and see what happens. And I'm really lucky that a lot has worked out for us. Uh, how did you get media attention? Did you reach out to reporters? Any advice to expand media efforts and get ourselves recognized by publications or companies? How many of you guys like are founders? Like you guys are asking very like founder specific questions. Do a lot of you guys have nonprofits or companies or ventures? Like, be helpful to know. I'm curious. Um, a lot of like for Redefy, like we got a lot of local press because Princeton, I'm really lucky to come from a place of privilege. And so Princeton has a ridiculous number, not a, ridiculous in a good way, like ridiculously amazing amount and lively local press. And so I was on the teen advisory board of the local Princeton Public Library. And so they gave us free space for events, and a lot of local journalists frequent the Princeton Public Library. And so local press started to pick up our story. And then, MTV News read a local Princeton like patched article or something. I don't exactly know which publication. And a journalist read it looking for young people doing good work. And so she reached out, and then MTV News wrote a profile on us that sort of just took off. And then from there, like national news just started hitting us up. And we just sort of got on the map. Yeah, we've not done both Redefy or Drew very little media outreach. We, like I said, like developing meaningful relationships. Like I'm friends with some reporters and have rapport with them. And if we do something cool, I might, let some reporter friends know, about something cool that we did to see if they might be interested. But, we haven't done a terrible amount, we haven't done a significant amount of like press releases or anything on that front. I'm not really a PR expert, and we as a company don't do really PR for our clients. Most of the media attention that we've got has really come in from people reaching out to us and, maybe seeing a social media post or reading another article or, word of mouth or whatever it might be. And then coming to us, or maybe like a journalist following me on Twitter, and then like we got lunch or something like that. And then one thing led to another. But yeah, a lot of things are just like, it's never what you expect, right? Like I never expected Bloomberg Business Week thing to happen. I never read Bloomberg Business Week. It's just like a client that we got from like a person on our team, like family friend, introduced us to somebody, and that we ended up getting a small publication as a client. And then he just talked about us to his friends, and we got that piece, right? And like things sort of just happened in ways that I never could have imagined. And that's how and I've been really, really lucky in that regard, insofar as media and et cetera. But I think also social media is a great way to get media, right? People see you on social media and they reach out because they're journalists on social media looking for amazing stories to cover. Wow, you guys actually have a lot of questions. I love this. Thank you for engaging with me. I hope this is interesting and or helpful. And if I'm annoying or boring, I apologize. Tell me if you're feedback. How are you planning on expanding your consulting business? I mean, in lots of ways. I mean, I just hired a managing director of operations who's 34 and like literally amazing, and like he's leading a lot of our scaling efforts, and we're implementing new softwares, and we're doing a lot more content strategy. If you're not subscribed to both our newsletters, you should be. The Receipt is our community of young people that we share opportunities with, that we pulse for insights and give rewards to, etc. So if you're not part of the Receipt network, join. And we're growing the Receipt rapidly. We also just launched the Screenshot, which is our newsletter for Gen Z Insights, and we're launching that into a podcast soon, and exciting stuff like that coming. So we're doing a lot more content strategy. We're doing a lot more, influencer marketing and, purpose-driven campaigns with our clients to really tell stories that matter and give resources to those who need them. Like the Yahoo, we gave out $100,000 to creators getting to this moment using creativity in, May/June, and did a whole TikTok campaign with influencers around that, etc. So just doing a lot more work like that we're really proud of really using our expertise as young people who understand digital, who understand purpose, who understand creativity to create campaigns that hopefully push society forward, and give resources to folks, or uplift stories that matter in some way. So we're going to hopefully keep on doing more of that when we're hiring more diverse young people to our team. And just trying to be the best company that we can be, and doing a lot of, as we're thinking about how we grow, like we want to grow in terms of like showing up better for issues that we matter and being a better workplace internally, right? And uplifting, diverse communities internally, et cetera. And so just doing a lot of auditing and hard look at ourselves about how we can be better. Because we want to be an example of a purpose-driven business that really, we exist to empower young people. We want to ask ourselves, is this empowering young people with every decision that we make, and to really stay true to that, and to really be the best version of ourselves as individuals, as in a company. And like Juve to me is not just a company, we're a community. It's like many of my best friends, and like I love the people that I work with, and I love what I do, and I love that we get to do it. And so just trying to never lose that love and to try to lean into purpose and to make it a community and a company that really empowers young people at every step and level. But yeah, if you want to stay in touch with us, join the receipt, join the network, be our friends, follow us on social. Wow, a lot of amazing questions. Oh, no, I mean, how long am I supposed to go for? I don't know, Archer. Just tell me. I can finish whenever you.
I mean, it was scheduled for 1:30, but I mean, I'm loving listening to you. So if you want to keep covering a couple more questions, you can.
I blocked the hour, so I'm happy to stay for the hour. But I'll just. You guys, do you guys have something after this? I don't know, like another speaker.
No, you're good. We got you for the entire hour, man. You're
okay. Cool.
You can go for it.
I'm happy to keep answering the questions or doing whatever you guys want. I can also do activities, like whatever. I'm chill. You're chill. We're all just chilling. So yeah. Okay, I'll just keep. Also, there's actually a lot of people here. I'm actually kind of.
Yeah, you just want to pick out some questions that you really like.
Yeah.
Go for it, man.
There's a lot of questions. Wow. Okay, I am going to read. Also, I mean, I feel like Archer should be answering some of these questions because he got 46 people to show up to a panel on a Saturday. So shout out to you, man. But okay, let me keep reading the question. I also want to preface like anything that I say in both my privilege and in like that I'm weary of giving advice. Like just because it worked for me doesn't necessarily mean it will work for somebody else, and I know that. And I know that I've been really, really privileged along so many metrics. And so I also to the person who asks, for people who are good at socializing, how should you find new connections? I can try to give advice on that question, but I'm also probably not the right person to give advice on that question just because like I am really, really social naturally, and like that's who I am. And so it would be speculation, but like what I would say is like LinkedIn, right? Or like cold emailing or emailing people. Like a lot more people read their DMs than you think they do. More people read their public emails than you think they do. So like just try to hit people up and write to them if you're not comfortable speaking is like what comes to mind. But like I also don't really know because like I love to talk. So I do that a lot. So I'm just reading the questions and deciding which ones to answer. Do you have anyone in your life that you look up to the most? Absolutely, my mother. I'm a big mama's boy. I love my mom, but also Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand. If my president, I love her. I'll answer this question. What are some next steps you're working on for Rita? Oh, Jia Ming. If I pronounced your name again, I'm sorry. And also, Asrat asked the question before that. But what are some next steps you're working on for Redefy as you continue your journey through Yale? So when I graduated high school, I transitioned to be the chairman of the board of Redefy.
Yeah.
So we are like a high school organization, right? So like I think a lot of amazing organizing and computational current events and identity and stereotypes does already happen in college, but really is neglected in high school often. And so it was really important to me to keep the organization high school focused. So we have a team of high schoolers that continues to lead Redefy forward. I just supervise and oversee. So they have a lot of big plans where if you haven't checked out We Redefy on social media, check us out. We've been posting a lot of really amazing infographics. We're going to have some big campaigns launching. Our journalism on our website, redefy.org, is really, really stellar these days and provides a lot of diverse narratives on issues that matter. So check us out and check that out. But a lot of big things, but I'm not really the one behind that. That's Katie and Jack and the amazing team that's leading that forward. And I'm just here to supervise and be a big brother, if you will. Can people around the world join Redefy? Abdullah asks. How can we contribute to your organization's motives? Absolutely. Go to redefy.org, click join. You can start a chapter in your community. You can join the team under the school representative. There's lots of opportunities. You can write for the journalism team, lots of opportunities to get involved with Redefy and Juve. If you want to get involved in Juve, you can join the Receipt Network. If you want to join Redefy, you can join as create a chapter, etc. So yeah, redefy.org, juveconsulting.com, get involved, get in touch. Absolutely. You can follow me online and like DM me and I can connect with the right people, etc. So yes. Does Juve hire high school consultants? The answer is absolutely yes. We have plenty of high schoolers on our team. We only do open the applications though for consultants once a year, right before the summer starts. So we won't be opening that up for like at least another year, probably ish, because we just did a round in like May. And it's a lot of work because we get lots of applications. So yes, so if you join the receipt, we'll always publicize when we're hiring. So join the receipt for Juve, and then when we're hiring consultants, you will hear about it and hopefully be able to apply. But yes, we absolutely accept high schoolers. This is such a profound question. Am I ever going to take a different course in life? Afua asked. I mean, like, look, it's been weird, right? Like, I haven't chosen like one path, right? Like, I am a full-time student. I go to college. I try to work really hard in school. I run a company. I oversee, and I'm the founder of a nonprofit. I hang out a lot with my friends. I go to parties, or I did go to parties pre-corona. Like I've not really chosen one lane. Like I try to use social media, like etc. Like I wear many hats, if you will. And just like any young person, I ask myself like, which hat do I like the best? And like, where do I want to be, and who do I want to be when I grow up, and etc. And my answer to you is, I am fulfilled by the work that I'm doing right now, and I will keep doing it for as long as it fulfills me. And I feel really grateful to live the life that I have. There are definitely days when I ask myself, like, am I doing enough? Or like, is this what I want for myself? Or, all of these questions. But overarchingly, like, I love what I do, and I love the people I do it with, and it fulfills me. But what I want to be when I grow up is a good dad. Like more than anything else, like I think a lot of people don't have good dads, and I want to be one. And that's who I want to be when I grow up. But I also want to be somebody who tries to continue to use my privilege to speak up and to show up for issues that I care about in some way and somehow. And I love creativity, and I love marketing, and I love storytelling. So I want to keep doing more of that. But we'll see where the wind takes me. Like if you told me I'd be where I am today, doing what I'm doing, like I didn't even know the word what marketing was, when I was like 12 or whatever. Like I could never imagine that anything about my life today would be what it looks like truly anything. So hard to say what 10 years from now will look like, but I'm cautiously optimistic, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed. It's not too bad, Okay, this question was asked twice, so I guess I got to tackle it. Katie asks, how do you deal with topics or in questions that are controversial or uncomfortable in a way that gets people willing to talk about them? It's a really hard question, and one that I certainly ask myself a lot. So I guess, so I think my strategy regarding this question has maybe changed over the years. And also I think my answer would be different if it's an in-person conversation versus a digital conversation, because I think online conversations are super different. But in general, I think that humans, we are a lot more similar than sometimes we give ourselves credit for. And I think that I have found the most success in changing hearts and minds when you approach things in a really human angle, right? To give an example of what that looks like in practice, right? If you poll people and if you support the Green New Deal, you might get a polarized answer. I don't think we should have a polarized answer. I think we need the Green New Deal. But I think if you ask people, do you care about the environment? Do you think, do you enjoy natural beauty, right? Do you think that people deserve good paying jobs? And when you break it down from a really human angle and break it down in its pieces, rather than start with that big, scary, buzzword, I think you can get a lot further. And so I think meeting people where they're at, I think for Rita 5 for a long time, I was recruiting people to the team who already cared a lot about social justice. And at a certain point, I realized that we can make a lot more impact. Maybe if we recruited people, it's not oh, you love social justice, join Rita 5. It's oh, you love writing? Come write for us and become more educated through the process of being part of the team, right? Oh, you love coding, join our tech team, whatever it might be, meeting people where they're at and thinking about where is the intersection of what you care about and their interests, and really trying to find where you can push forward on that common ground, but while also not losing your ethics, right? And like what matters to you, right? And having lines, of course. I'm absolutely willing to engage with all sorts of folks who disagree with me. Um, but there are certain forums to do that, and there are lines, right? Like I will engage with people who disagree with me on some issues, but I will not engage with somebody that I think, is actively endangering other people's lives, right? And so I think it's hard. It's tricky to know where the line is on, how do you tackle these issues? Like, where is the right forum? How do you make the most impact, etc. But at the end of the day, I want to use my platform and my voice to talk about the issues that matter, like controversial or uncomfortable or not. And I think that change happens when we make ourselves and others a little bit uncomfortable, right? Because the status quo isn't working for so many folks. And so we have to disrupt the status quo and like be uncomfortable a little bit, right? And we need to sit and live with that discomfort so it forces us to be better, right? And so that we understand that for so many people, they're perpetually uncomfortable because we've created conditions that keep people down. And so I think that I try not to shy away from tackling things that are controversial or uncomfortable. But it depends is the answer of like, how do I deal with it? It depends if it's online or in person or what the topic is. But I try to approach from a place of humanity and empathy and understanding that like, I don't know what it's like to be somebody else, right? And I don't know why they believe what they believe all the time. And I try not to make assumptions. I think for a long time, I made a lot more assumptions about other people. But I think as I've gotten older, I just realized like how differently people grew up and with such different inputs and surroundings, and to just try to approach things from a place of empathy wherever possible. Because I think we need all of us, like I believe that we need all of us. And I believe in a world where every kid can grow up to feel safe, loved, and accepted, regardless of who they are or where they come from or who they love or what they sound like or what they look like or who they pray to. And I want for that world so much. And I think to get there, it requires defending the humanity and believing in the humanity of every single person and kid, regardless of their beliefs, etc. But that doesn't mean I agree with everybody. It doesn't mean I want to talk to everybody. But I want to talk to a lot of folks and learn from them and try to get us to have uncomfortable conversations, hard conversations that push us forward and allow us to learn and to understand how much more work we have to do. Yeah, I don't know if that was helpful, but I think about it. I'll find another question. What advice would you give to young people trying to deal and cope with the current issues in America? Asks Cameron. I mean, like, look, I, again, would be very weary answering this question insofar as me as a cisgender person of privilege have so much relative security in the American geopolitical climate as a non-Black person, as a person of socioeconomic privilege, as a cisgender male. There's significantly less violence projected against me, etc. While certainly I'm a person of color and I'm American Muslim and, all of these other things, I don't know what it's like to be so many identities in America and what it's like to live with the violence that's projected against so many communities that exist in America. That said, I think my overarching response to this question is I think community is really powerful, and being around people who support you and who believe in you can be a really powerful way to deal with what's happening in the world. Because like for me, I know that like it's much easier to talk about being American Muslim and with the issues that the American Muslim community is facing with other American Muslim people sometimes, right? And so having a community of American Muslim friends and mentors and peers and role models is really, really important to me to be able to deal with and cope with that. And then also like for me, like the way I think about something is I connect a lot of things back to family because family is important to me, right? Like your mom might annoy you sometimes, or your dad or non-binary parent, might annoy you sometimes, but they do it because they love you, right? They tell you to do things better. They tell you to do things quicker, whatever it might be. I feel that way about this country, right? Like, I don't always like America, but I'm American and this is my country. And I might not always like my family, but they're my family. And so I think it's really important. I think this connects to the other question about what advice, how do we speak out about these questions, et cetera. Like, I think if we care about the space, this country that we share, like we have to use our voices to try to make it better. And so I hope that we think about the world more like family, like we have an obligation to push it to be better. Um, and I think when we do so, coming from a place of community and compassion, there's a lot of change that can happen. And so my advice is lean into community and to not forget that, our collective voices can have a lot of impact when we're willing to speak up and to show up out of care, out of compassion. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's helpful. Yeah. How do you handle haters? Big question. Look, the internet's a crazy place, and there's a lot of misinformation online. A lot of people are angry at the world right now, and they have every right to be. And no one person is infallible. I've certainly made mistakes, and I I think people challenging people to be better is not always a bad thing. And many times is a necessary thing. The way that I live my life or try to is like, look, I go to sleep every night with my integrity, and I go to sleep every night knowing that I love what I do, that I try really hard to show up for what I care about, and most of like what's crazy with the internet is like most of the things that really like I think if you thought about anybody that right? Like the people that you would say are the best people that like the most like good people, good hearted, are not necessarily the people who like talk about politics the most on their social media, right? Like your social media is such a small reflection of who you are. And most of the actions that I take in a day are people have no idea about, right? And I just try to live a life making decisions that I am proud of, being surrounded by people who push me to be better and who love me and who I love and who I believe in and who believe that I can be better and help me get there. I try to run a really ethical nonprofit and company, and to try to use my voice as sensitively and thoughtfully as possible to speak up what I care about and to represent myself as authentically as I can and I feel comfortable doing, given that, I don't think that the internet and online is the forum for everything, right? I learn from critique of me. I learn from people who challenge me, and I've learned a lot from it, and from people critiquing others and et cetera, and just the internet climate in general. Um, I know my worth. I know my work. I know my story, and those who know me and know me well know me and what I'm about, and can speak to my work. And so I take that's what I care about. Right? I can't control what every person who reads one headline or one misleading tweet thinks about me or about an issue or anything, but I can control the decisions that I make day in and day out. I can control who I am and what I care about and how I prioritize, and I can control who I spend my time with, and how I respond. And I just try to do all of those things as responsibly as I can. But I certainly wish for an internet with more compassion that does its research more often. And an internet that looks a lot different than this current one. I think it's troubling that it's so hard sometimes to have an online conversation. I think it's troubling that so many people believe so much misinformation online at all ages and all sorts of different conversations, etc. And so I hope for a world where there's more clarity, more compassion, but still calling people in, challenging each other to be better in community-wide conversations and issues that matter. So yeah, I don't know. What are some things you do in your free time to cope with stress? I watch TV. I love TV and I hang out with my friends. I love my friends and I love TV. Those are the two things. I do a face mask every now and then. I try to sleep decently well. Eat healthy, try to eat healthy. I try to work out. I try to just live a decently healthy lifestyle. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink caffeine for the most part. Only a Coke if I really, really, really need it. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I just try to live a healthy lifestyle, and to find the strength within myself to deal with the problems around me, wherever I can. And so I try to deal with the stress by leaning on the amazing people around me, by reflection, by watching TV, by sleeping, taking care of myself, by taking a breath. And sometimes it's harder than others, but I try. Um, oh, it's such a good question. Asrat asks, how do you manage or react when one of your views or beliefs is challenged? It's a hard thing, right? Like, I'm also somebody who like really believes what I believe. Um, but I try to be like really like methodical in my argument, right? And like if there's a hole in my argument and it gets pointed out to me, then I sort of just like do a lot of like I rarely maybe like change my mind in the moment. I'd like go and do more reading and research and thinking and sit with it. And then, like realize, what, maybe I was wrong on that issue or that question. And I think a lot of times, especially in the internet, like people assume that like immediately once you're presented with new information, you just change your mind. And I don't think that's like how our minds always work. Like sometimes it just takes a time, like take a day and like think about it or longer, right? And like deconstruct what you used to think to allow yourself to construct this new truth, right? And like that takes time, like learning and unlearning and etc. And so I just try to be willing to be wrong about things, approaching conversations with a willingness to be wrong. I don't always do the best job of that, but I try. And then to do research and to think about things. And maybe I'm like, maybe I wasn't entirely right about that. How was it like working with Obama? So I've never like worked with Obama, Abdullah. I had dinner with him and he spoke about me in a speech, which was pretty crazy and surreal. I was like 16, I want to say. Pretty crazy. And it's really humbling and incredible experience. But I never like worked with him on a project. I just, had that one experience that was really profound and special and validating, that I feel really, really grateful and lucky to have had. And the way that happened was after the MTV News article that I mentioned was written about me my sophomore year came out, a Bangladeshi American Muslim staffer at the White House read it and called me and was like, I want to get you involved in the work that I'm doing, etc. And she ended up putting my name forward, and I ended up getting invited to the White House Iftar, which was the annual dinner that the White House had at the time to honor Ramadan, the holy month of Ramadan that Muslims observe. And then I got an email inviting me to sit at his table, and then got informed that he'd be speaking about me in his remarks. And it was just this crazy experience, and that I feel really lucky to have had. But I can't say that I worked with him or that I know him well. I had one night that if you told me it never happened, I'd probably believe you because it was so surreal. That I'm really grateful to have had. But can't really say anything beyond that. And certainly, like when almost all politicians have my critiques of the Obama administration and of all sorts of problems with even the Democratic Party. And as a Democrat, I would say that so while I feel very grateful for that experience, I also think we have a long way to go in terms of our party and I guess my party, and our policies and where we're headed. Yeah. Any other questions? I guess I can keep reading questions.
Oh, here, man, we have actually we have a list of questions that people wanted to ask before you even started talking. Yeah.
Please go ahead. Go off.
We're running a little bit short. I'm sure people want to hear. I mean, some of these are kind of just general. Like, what are some of the biggest obstacles that you faced, and kind of how did you tackle them?
Look, I've been very lucky and I've been very privileged in so many ways. I think my biggest obstacle has been like juggling and having to like balance everything. People being unkind or letting you down has always been an obstacle. I think working with your best friends or people that you love is tricky. I think being young in a lot of these spaces was an obstacle and a challenge to get people to take you seriously. So yeah, certainly obstacles, but overarchingly, I've been really lucky and privileged. And I would hate to characterize my experience as being defined by obstacles because that isn't the case. I have been really, really lucky and privileged to have so many doors open for me, to have so many people believe in me, and to have such amazing teams behind me that have made everything that I've done possible, to have the most amazing and supportive family, to have really, really incredible access to education and all sorts of things like that. So I overall feel really lucky, but I think I've tackled every challenge or obstacle that's came at me differently. You know, I think I've gotten way, way, way better at crisis management than, you know, I used to like freak out and like, you know, panic and like need like my co-founders like help, like I can't do this, I can't handle this. And now I'm like, okay, deep breath, what's the action plan? What are the next steps you got to take? And, you know, I've grown up a lot, I think, in terms of handling obstacles or challenges or crises. And so I think I now just sort of think of like, I can't change everything. Some obstacles are bigger than others, but when something is, I am going to focus on the things that I can change. And that's really my mindset, right? So like whatever I'm going to work as hard as I need to overcome what I need to overcome that's in front of me that is movable. And some things aren't movable, but a lot of things are movable. And so I'm going to push as hard as I can and strategize to push what I got to push to get out of the way. Or to move over it, or to move under it, or whatever the strategy might be. But it's a case by case, right? But overall, been very lucky, been very privileged, and yeah, can't complain too much.
Wow, that's actually such a positive way of looking at things. I was gonna follow up with, do you see any like obstacles in front of you that are gonna be huge to tackle? But you just
I mean,
sound
like,
ready to take on everything.
I mean, I don't know about taking everything. I mean, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, yes, like I'm freaking stressed. Like I have not started my schoolwork this weekend. I am a full-time student or running a company full-time, and I do not know how I'm gonna get it all done. And you know, so many things. Like I am not like the happiest that I've ever been in quarantine, right? And like I miss so many parts of my old life, and I don't know like when I'll be able to go back and, you know, meet new people and explore new things and all sorts of things like that. And so yeah, there's so many, you know, challenges that are immediately ahead in terms of business questions, or in terms of how I'm going to juggle it all, or in terms of what's next for me, or like where I even want to live, or, you know, all sorts of like bizarre, like, you know, bizarre questions. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, my problems are not problems, you know, and I know that.
Wow. You touched on this earlier, but someone wanted to know how you kind of keep up the flow of stereotype-defying articles with I don't know how much journalism you still do, and then I
Yeah,
guess more.
I really don't do much. You'd have to ask my girl, Katie Jane, who's the new executive director who ran our journalism for a long time. Um, But what I will say is there are always new stories to tell, right? And every single human being has a unique and individual story that inherently defies a stereotype, because every single person's story is different and every single person has been affected by stereotypes. And so it's an infinite pool of content and of stories to pull from that hopefully push us to be better and to be more informed individuals.
Wow. Okay. We're kind of running to the end here, so I kind of want to wrap you with one question. I know this might be
Okay.
difficult, but hopefully you've kind of learned about the people we have here as a group. If you had just one piece of advice to give us, you know, a bunch of Gen Z high schoolers, what would it be?
Okay, my first advice is like keep your cameras on Zoom calls. Um, Advice number one, I want to get to know like don't be shy, right? Like I think that as young people, I think women especially, but people of color broadly, etc., are often told like be smaller, be quiet, hide yourself, like take up space, right? Like uh I think there's something really powerful about just claiming a seat at a table that sometimes you weren't invited to, right? And also, there's an equal power or more power in giving up, you know, a seat when you have privilege and you know that someone else could better benefit from that opportunity or resource that you're getting access to. But seriously, tactically, yes, like turn on your video. Like I wouldn't even be able to recognize any of you guys if I saw you again, even though we talked for an hour. So like, I would love to be able to recognize you guys. Um, the advice I generally give young people is there's something that makes all of us, our eyes light up when we think about it and our stomach ignite when we talk about it, right? Do that thing. Whatever that thing is, that like you just find yourself a little bit happier when you're talking about, you know, and you're doing. Do that thing more and unapologetically so, and run with it. And don't let anyone tell you you're too young or you're not ready. Just run with it and learn as much as you can and listen to those along the way, but keep running. And you look back to see who you've left behind, and then you run backward and you carry them forward with you, right? You only look back to see how far you've come and who you've left behind, right? But you keep running forward. And I think so often we're told our time must be later as young people. And I hope that to some small way, you know, I can serve as an older friend or whatever to tell you that no, our time is now and it must be now, right? And there's so much that young people are doing, can do, must be doing to make our tomorrow better than our today. And inshallah, God willing, we do that work because we have a world to change, right? And there's a lot of people suffering. And so, and there's a lot of more creativity and innovation and space that we need to navigate and innovate. So inshallah, I look forward to us, Gen Z, doing just that and to being friends with all of you as we work toward tomorrow look better than today. Yeah, I don't know. That's it from me, I guess, guys. But you can follow. I'll put my email and my handle in the chat. Feel free to get in touch with me. I'll put Drew's
Yeah,
handles and Rita Five's handles.
we're just gonna give you a
And
chance to go ahead. I mean, if you have anything coming up you want to shout out right now, anything you're trying to plug, let us know, man.
yeah, I mean, the main thing that I would say is, my friends, please join Drew Consulting's The Receipt. Just click on, I'll type our, I guess, the website here too, and join The Receipt. And if you want to get over Rita Fi, go to Rita Fi's socials, DM us, get involved, and would love to just stay friends and to keep learning from you guys. But please keep in touch. Let me know how I can be helpful. And I hope this was interesting and or helpful and or entertaining to one of you, some of you. So thank you for being here and bearing with me. I hope this was enjoyable.
It was, yeah. Thank you so much.
No, of course. It's my pleasure and privilege.
And then for all of our attendees, just friendly reminder: join our Slack for more stuff. We'll be plugging all of
Oh no. May
all
Allah
of the
bless you.
Redefine and Juve stuff. Yeah, follow us on Instagram for more. We have a recording of this we'll be putting up on our YouTube, so you can rewatch it or send it to your friends, family. And thank you to everyone for coming.